Hi, everybody. Recruiting Animal here on August 25th, 2021. We've got a return guest who, I have to say, he spooked me this morning. He said, don't do bad things on the show. He was on twice already, okay? I almost kicked him off because I can't be worried about the guest when, we're here, okay? It goes where it goes. But I promise to edit it if he says any bad things. So if you see skips, blame it on him. His name is Jack Kelly, okay? What's your website, Jack? You've got your business and also your side hustle.
Yeah, we have Wecruiter.com, WECRUITR.com.
Louder!
WECRUITR.com. And then also Compliance Search. That's the recruiting, compliancesearch.com.
Okay, he's a recruiter. What's Wecruiter? Just say that so everybody knows.
Well, Wecruiter, it's interesting. So we started it, and for the pandemic, and this is one of the best things I think I've done in a long time. So for the pandemic, we built this social media platform to help people. 80 Americans were out of work, and
you know what? Job career advice. Everybody can call. I haven't introduced the other two guys yet, but this, during the recession as well, people were saying to recruiters, let's put America back to work. If there's no jobs, you can't put them to work. All you're doing by giving advice like you do, you give advice. Oh, the Wonder Kid is here, Rich Rosen.
Hey, Rich.
If you give advice and tips how to be a good interviewer, how to have a good resume, all you're doing is teaching one job hunter how to beat out another poor guy. Tell me that isn't true.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, and
thanks. Doesn't that sound like a shrink? Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, that's a total backhand move, right? To say that. I understand what you're saying, which basically means screw you. I don't, what you're saying doesn't have any merit.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to tell you what really makes sense. So that's just a polite way of saying it. But what are the alternatives? Seriously, what are the alternatives? The alternative is to do nothing, right? So I rather try to do something. So we had.
Okay. This guy's a saint. They never say I do it. I create this sideline so I can make money. They never say that. It's always I want to help.
All right. Now that you said that,
I'm a recruiter because I like to help people. That's not true.
Now that you finished ranting, I didn't charge people for it. So this was free. This was a free service we offer to people. No strings attached. It was actually done. I know it's hard for you to believe. I know this is hard to believe, but people sometimes do nice things.
Look, I'm not making money either. Spell it again.
Well, you're not making money because you're not good at recruiting. But this is something different. This is what I'm talking about. Is that we're doing this to help people. And if nothing else, too. So much of
people are afraid to come on the show because they don't like being criticized.
And then confident.
I'm back every week. I take a beating. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let me introduce the other people. Ernie came in. Ernie is foodindustryrecruiter.com. Foodindustryrecruiter.com. One day I hope he's a guest again and he can tell us about his fantastic rise to his eminence, because he was telling us about it. I was very impressed. Down there, we've got Ivan Gulenko. He is a tech recruiter. And remind me, Ivan, because there's things you say about tech candidates that go completely against the advice that Jack gives to candidates. Okay. So we have to talk about that. But this guy, Jack, Ivan, he's in Switzerland. He was a programmer. He became a tech recruiter, and he now created his own ATS, applicant tracking system. It's called Klang, KLANG.SO. And you know what? I think he's quite smart to put all the ads around his head, but I think there's too many. And it should just say in big block letters, Klang.SO ATS, and that would get the message over fast. And then there's cornerstonesearch.com. He wasn't here last week when we were praising him to the skies, okay? In fact, I was embarrassed. I said to myself, I'm never going to talk about Rich again because I come off sounding like an idiot. Oh, great. Yeah, okay.
I want to thank you for the check, Rick.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to last week's episode. I appreciate it.
So I got to tell you, with Jack Kelly, okay, he is also a business writer, and he's very distinctive. Okay, he's not against business, but he's against, as far as I can tell, business people. He really is harsh. He's a harsh critic of the way things work in companies. He's a defender of the little guy, I don't know if that's a sexist term, the ordinary worker. So, and now he's got this shtick going. He's got tons of videos on YouTube under the We Cruder account, and lots of them are good. So I'm going to ask him, since he's in touch with the grassroots candidates from their point of view. Sorry, I'm getting wordy. Jack, what is wrong with recruiters? What do they say about recruiters, good and bad? And if everybody, as soon as he says something you don't agree with or agree with, just feel to jump in, say, hey, go ahead, Jack, over to you.
I don't agree with that.
What job seekers say about recruiters, you're asking?
Yeah, well, wasn't I clear?
No. So basically, the usual rap, the usual rap that they're dishonest, they're used car salespeople, they only are looking for the commission, they don't care, they're rude, they're inconsiderate, they don't give you all the information about it. But you know what? But that comes with you're an accountant, you're an attorney, you're going to get that no matter what industry that they're in. And I think, for people who are looking for a job, they're frustrated. They're angry.
Let me stop you right there.
And,
Okay, you told us all the bad things. You told us all the bad
people.
things. You didn't give one example. Do they give you examples? Do you have stories to tell that illustrate this stuff? Or is it just, generalities like everybody, spouts?
Well,
used car salesman. Do you have a story about a used car salesman?
I don't want to. Can I tell you? I don't want to tell any stories about anything. That's boring.
No, that's what the show is about. It's about stories.
What are stories? Once upon a time, there was this job seeker, and there was this job seeker named Little Michael, and Michael was going to look for a job, and then some other candidates got the job in front of him.
Anybody else? Hold on. Anybody else got a story about a used car salesman recruiter? Okay, or a recruiter who lies, or a recruiter who is rude? Does anybody know of those things happening? Because here's Jack, who's in touch with the masses, and he doesn't have one story for us. Okay,
yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. That people hating recruiters. That's not my gig. I mean, I'm not sure why you brought that up. That's not what I don't write about that.
You are a recruiter. Okay,
right.
This is a show for recruiters.
Right.
Now you're in touch with the job hunters. So we wanted to hear, what are we doing wrong? How are we doing it wrong? You have nothing to tell us. Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay, do they ever say anything good about recruiters? I had this great experience with a recruiter. Okay, yeah,
once in a while.
Just say, okay, once in a while. That's a no.
But not too much. No, once in a while means once in a while. It doesn't mean no. It means once in a while.
Okay. Let me see what else we got. Okay. Here's a question that our great former guru Jerry says: if a candidate, and Rich will back me up on this, I think Jerry says that if a candidate reschedules an interview, you can almost guarantee that she's never going to show up for that interview. Is that true, Jack, or not?
I would say the odds. Like I can't say black and white, but the odds. If you have someone who you prepared, you pitched them the idea, they're excited about it, and then they pull out at the last second, can't make it. I'm not going to say they're going to never go back, but if I was calculating the odds on it, I put like a 20%, 25% chance that something's going to happen. They're going to come up with another excuse.
Will you reschedule? Will you reschedule the person?
If I feel that the person is good for the job, they're on top of it, and I know I can make a placement fee out of it, sure, I'm going to kind of keep going back.
But you expect them. You won't be surprised. You won't be surprised when they stab you in the back.
I'm going to go back to that person and try to really, speak to them and see why they didn't go. Kind of figure out if those reasons were valid, or they really don't want the job, and I pushed them into going for the interview, and they really didn't want it.
How do you discover that they really didn't want the job? What do you say to them?
I'll have a conversation. Like I'll sit like with Rich and say, hey, Rich, I know we had this set up. Just be honest with me. Are you not interested in the role? Did I push you into it? Let's talk about it. And I opened up a conversation so then I could really find out what's the real deal. Now, Rich may then say, hey, you know what? There's a family emergency. This happened. And I could tell he's being sincere. And then I'll ask again, hey, if I set it up, are you interested? Do you want to go back? Will you go for a second round?
How do you make them calm enough to not be afraid of you chewing their head off if they say, I want to back?
Dude, that's a great question. And I'll tell you why that's such a great question. Because a lot of recruiters are just like, do it, take this job. You got to go for the interview. They're really pushy. And I find out just the opposite. If you have a calm conversation with somebody and you really ask them questions, and when they talk, you really listen to them, right? You really listen to what they want, what they don't want, what makes them happy, what doesn't make them happy, what kind of job they want, what kind of compensation. Then they're going to trust you because they realize, okay, this is not just another recruiter. This is someone who cares and someone who wants to help me and someone
Okay,
who
you
wants
know
to
what?
find it.
Ernie has a therapy manner just like you do. Ivan is low key, but Rich tells you that you have to be excited on the phone. Rich, what do you think about what he's saying there?
About candidates not, do you reschedule them and that whole
A
shebang?
reschedule, and would you go back and talk to them and try to
Yeah,
say,
no. So yeah, no, I'm a big believer of not really rescheduling them unless, but it's not 100%. Like you said, 20% of them, it's probably worth it. Like
Right, you got to calculate the odds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got people that tell me their mother's died 3 times. I mean, they forget how good a notes you keep. If you're a decent recruiter, you kept notes on these people for years sometimes. But I'm not. I have canceled more interviews than I can count, and I tell these candidates, I'm like, listen, I generally don't reschedule people if they cancel. I don't really care what the reason is. And those that are really interested are going to fight. They're going to say, well, listen, this is really what happened. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And, you make a judgment call.
okay,
But-
so here, you're not like him. You're no therapist, okay?
No,
You say,
no.
look, I'm going to give you some tough love here.
But I don't think it's a
want you
therapist.
any.
Admiral,
Yeah,
I don't
you're
think
a
it's
therapist.
I
Yeah.
think it's more of by just talking to them and hearing them out, you get what they want. And then as a recruiter, that helps me out because then I really know what they're all about.
And you
Exactly.
see the
Well,
difference.
by animal, there's different ways to do it. Like I don't come across as a giant asshole. I mean,
Right.
I'm just very direct and honest with them. And for my
Right.
clientele, they're all these high energy sales guys. That's what they like. If I'm dealing with a bunch of programmers, like they're not going to appreciate it, but I get candidates all the time who are grateful for the fact that I was really honest with them. And I tell them, if you're not really interested, don't interview. I don't give a shit. But you got to be
He's not an
you gotta be
asshole.
into
I
it.
don't give a shit. I don't give
No, but it's doing what's right for them, and it
Okay.
just comes across very blunt and
Maybe
honest.
there's-
Which no one does.
Okay, Ernie, over to you. Do you have something to say about that?
I think the approach is one of, at first you talk to them, you listen to what they got to say. And if they go along with the program, then fine, we're talking about what you want. But at the same time, you got to let them know who's in control. And if they start doing like ghosting you or whatever, you cut them. And then if
No. If we're talking about something very clear and cut, they say, I'm going to reschedule. Jerry says,
well, even okay, so if they want to reschedule, the first thing I tell them is, you know what? I don't think we can do it. I don't think we can reschedule. And I really advise you not to because there's other people there. And what is your reason? And they'll come up with some reason. And it's usually after that, it's kind of like everything's gone downhill. I don't feel good when that happens.
Well, but you just tell them. I mean, I tell these guys flat out. I mean, honestly, I had a guy this morning. He wanted to reschedule because he may have COVID or something. So I was like, listen, he wasn't coughing on the phone. I'm like, you sound fine, but if you can't have any personality, then fine. Well, then we can reschedule. But if you're really serious, I would try to do it today because he had enough energy to be fine. But the point is, I lost my train of thought. But if I told the guy, chances are when I have to reschedule an interview, that guy almost never gets the job. Either they pull out of the process or the client's already a little sour on him. So
and it's at that point too where you push the interview. You may do it gently, but you do it with reason.
Yeah.
And you give them why they shouldn't reschedule. But if they're insistent, I got to reschedule. It's usually somebody you put in the back burner because it's not going to happen.
Yep.
And it's kind of like that saying, how it starts is how it's going to end, and that's how it's starting.
Oh boy, I got to write that down.
That's the first quote I learned in recruiting, baby. That's the best one. How it starts, it has.
I never heard it before. Ivan, over to you.
I think I might have even heard from Rich.
There you go.
I stole it.
I told you the guy has become a magnet for our brains. Ivan, do you have something to say about this? Reschedulers? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
I think you can generalize the question, right? It's like about does the candidate, let's say, resist the process? This is the what do you do? This is the question, right? And
no, the question is they call you up or they send you an email and say, Ivan, I can't make it to this time interview. I want to reschedule. We've just heard 3 pros. They don't trust that candidate anymore. Okay.
So here in Europe, I would say
Can I tell you,
it happens
especially if
less.
they're emailing. If they call you, at least they have a fighting chance. If they just
When they email you like 4:00 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Or 2 minutes before the interview.
Yeah,
And then,
exactly.
the second thing is, when do they want to reschedule for?
Yeah, 3 months from now on a Tuesday at 5:45.
Yeah.
You know. But
You
Ernie, can I
give
say something?
Switzerland a chance. Oh, give
Ernie,
Switzerland a chance here, okay?
Okay.
What's your take on rescheduling?
I cannot even think of like so many cases where it does happen. I think people here, I don't know, they just like appear
Oh, different
or
culture.
not appear, or they just
Okay,
don't.
there's
Yeah,
the
I think so. I actually
watchmakers.
do think so.
They can be counted on. That's what you're saying, okay? They're on
Yeah,
time. Okay.
The old different country.
Is that true? Are they more apt to follow the rules and not
Absolutely,
change
I
their
would,
mind?
say so. Like for example,
Huh.
in doctors, like I hear in the US, like the doctor would call you like 2 days before and say, "Hey, you have an appointment in 2 days or tomorrow." Like like doctors don't do this in Europe. They don't
They
like
do it here,
remind
yeah.
you. They just you made an appointment, so like people show up. They
All
don't
right.
need to.
I'm
do
gonna start
this. In the
recruiting
US,
in Switzerland. I like that. That's easy.
Really? Oh, nice.
So interesting.
Okay. So does somebody have something to say, or should I move on to the next
Well,
slide?
I want to plug. You should give, if you haven't checked out Clang, I've been playing with it. It's a phenomenal tool.
Which?
Iwan's Clang. It's clang.so.
Oh, hey, he's got an endorsement here from his
There you
We
go.
were just talking about it. Michael.
It's a strong up and comer, my friend. I love it. I think it's
I
pretty
wish
cool.
someone would would come on the show who could sell you on a good microphone, Rich. That would be.
Yeah,
Nice.
I don't have enough money for a microphone. So
Too many trips to the Bahamas.
yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the kind of thing I talked about that Jack Kelly, doesn't that sound like a private detective? I told him first time I met him, Sam Spade, Jack Kelly,
Yeah.
Joe Friday. Okay. Anyway, so he is a kind of business writer who says bad things about work, and that makes me wonder how, if anybody reads his stuff consistently, they say, boy, going to work for somebody else is a bad deal. Okay, how can he then tell the company or tell the candidate, this is great? Okay, and I'm going to read you what he says. Okay, he says, to succeed in the corporate world, you have to play the game. Being good isn't good enough. You have to network with the right insiders, make yourself known, suck up to the bosses, and put in long, tedious hours to show your commitment. Okay, so he's
Damn, I'm a good writer. That sounds awesome.
It's all about. It's a
sounds
terrible
great.
rat race. It's a terrible rat race. Really, if but you can't be a hippie. You've got some kids, so you got to put up with it. That's what I hear from you, Jack. And I could go on. You've got a lot more.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. When I look at it, and you guys as recruiters could appreciate it, a lot of it is managing expectations. And what I'm
Can
doing.
everyone hear him? I always have a problem. Can everyone hear this guy?
You got to invest in a better headset.
Yeah. And so
you're so loud, I had to turn my audio down. Okay, I can throw that back at you, buddy. Go ahead, Jack. They can hear you. That's all I care.
So to manage expectations, you want to kind of play, show, hey, here's all the things you have to watch out for. Here are all the bad stuff. Here's the things. Here's the hurdles you're going to have to jump over. So I rather be transparent and say, this is what you have to be aware of, because this is reality. Why pretend it's not? So when people are going for interviews, they realize, hey, I'm going to confront this, rudeness and consideration. I'm going to get ghosted. I'm not going to get feedback. But then in back of their mind, they're going to say, hey, Jack had warned me about this. So it's not just me it's happening to. This is a systemic thing, and it sucks, but it happens. So I feel comfortable kind of portraying things as they are in reality and not just make a rosy picture of it.
That's when you have an article. That's when you write an article.
Yeah.
What about then when you're dealing with the candidate? I'm setting you up with company ABC. Yeah. They might be rude to you. Okay, the interviewer might be an asshole.
Absolutely, I absolutely. If they're, I prepare people because
you're still going to want to work there. No, I don't get it. There's a contradiction.
You asked me. Let me answer. So what happens? So let's say I deal with mid to senior level executives, right? And they know the game. They've been in the workforce from 10 to 40 years. So they understand. So they're not naive. They know how it is. And yeah, I'll let them know that what I see, at least in my space right now, even though it's a hotter job market and doing well, the amount of interviews are insane. They go on forever. You're going to have somebody who could be a mid-level person go on 10 interviews, no exaggeration, over 3-6 months. So I have to kind of let them know this is what could happen, because otherwise they're going to be like, Jack, what the heck are you doing to me? What's going on? So I would, if I didn't be honest with them, I wouldn't place people, because then they would get all mad. Why didn't you just tell me, beforehand what this is going to be like? So I'd rather just, here's what you have to watch out for. Good, bad, and indifferent.
Let me stop you. Does anybody else, he said 10 interviews, okay?
Yeah.
Don't you go back to your client and say, this is insane. How am I going to place anybody who's got 10 interviews? Does anybody want to comment on that before he answers?
Well, I'll tell you, you don't have any control over what the company wants to do. They're going to do what they're going to do. You can advise them. You can talk to them, but if they got some president or something that wants to do that, you're not going to change that. But
you got to bring it up though.
Yeah, I mean, you have to bring it up, but there are times when they're not going to change. Like you tell me, you got to speed it up, and they go, no, that's our culture, that's what we do, and that's how we do it, and we're not going to change for anybody. And so be it. It's going to happen. That's where you decide whether you want to work with that company.
Hold on a second. I remember things. Okay. We got Mr. Fire Your Client down there below you, Ernie. Okay. He's always saying,
I fire. That's what I mean. You got to decide whether you want to work with that client.
What would you do? I don't know if he was serious or just speaking metaphorically. 10 interviews.
Yeah.
Would you?
Adamo, can I give you an example? Because you asked before.
Now finally an example.
I'll give you an example. So I wrote about this guy, Mike Conley. He's a software engineer, wanted to go into management. He had about 11 interviews, and then he posted something on LinkedIn saying, I'm tapping out. This is ridiculous. Okay. It went viral. LinkedIn doesn't go viral much because that's not their platform. And there's probably at least 1 million views of his, discussing why he did it, and about 40,000 plus comments of people sharing their own, misadventures in this. So many people were just saying, that happened to me. I had 5-6 interviews. I got ghosted. I went on 2 interviews. Then they made me do this project, and they made me do such and such. They made me take this, and on and on and on. And you could just see the anger, the frustration of people. And we're not talking about 1, 2. I'm talking about 40,000 plus. And you could check it out later. It's Mike. If you just put in LinkedIn, Mike Conley, and you'd see just on and on and on. And then what happens? Like social media. Then other people see it, and then they post their own things, and then you see other streams. So this is a thing. This is a really thing.
So but the question is, does a recruiter have to tie himself or herself to these insane processes? Or like Rich says, cut them loose.
Sometimes
pick the cream of the crop.
Yeah, sometimes, like for instance, I've had a client recently that I just had to say, I can't, would have been a nice fee. Great. It was a
it's not a nice fee if you never get the deal closed.
And no, I was gonna say this. I had to walk away from it because just as Anima was asking, I realized this is just going to be ridiculous. This is going to take forever. I don't know if they'll ever pull the trigger.
The thing is too, you got to look at the size of the company. If you get these big monster companies, they're not going to change for anybody. But if you deal with a smaller company, startups and what have you, they listen. And that's where you got to figure out what your niche is.
That's a great point. It depends, right? It depends on the sector, the industry, the size.
Yeah. But I mean, that's as a recruiter, your whole value is, our value is our time. And if you're not using your time wisely, working with some crazy company that's got some ridiculous process, you're going to lose. So you've got to, what separates the A players and the B players of this business is being able to pick and choose. These candidates are right. This client's right. Where am I spending my time appropriately? And
the approach is to talk to the vice president or the president of the company, make those sort of connections, because you would have more power. Because I find that when I tell the vice president, hey, can I recruit for this job, Mr. VP of HR? And that vice president says, sure, you can. But you know what? My HR director will get a hold of you. Boom. In 3 minutes, I got the information from the HR director telling me what I need. When I go to the HR director, I'll get a day or two.
I want to ask Ivan. He's so quiet and polite. I always feel bad if
he's very polite.
The polite type. So I have to include.
Not like Rich.
How
No,
many
God,
people?
no.
No, I'd rather be like Rich, okay? Quiet's not good, okay? What about you and your programmer clients and buddies? Are they drawing out the hiring process like this, and do you tolerate it? What's the story with you, Ivan?
I do not tolerate it if it's like 10. I mean, if it's like, for example, yeah, we make this person work for a week for free or stuff like that. I heard this, but I would
Yes.
never work with such a company because it's already, as Rich said, it's really like this skill to as early as possible to just see the red flags and really like focus on other things, because this is, I think, the #1 skill in recruitment. If I think about it,
You know
I
what?
mean,
I saw this guy on another show, okay? And he was lively. He was saying, my candidates are crazy. I can't stand them. These programmers are totally nuts. When he comes here on the show where we allow people to do that, we encourage them to.
He's
express
intimidated by
feelings.
you.
He's mild. He's this
I always
mild manner.
am like, this is my personality. I always am at the opposite of the other people, you know.
Maybe
For sure,
that's
everybody's like this, so I try to be
Instead of
like
mirroring.
on the other show.
Instead of like mirroring the candidate, you're
that's
doing the
one of
opposite
his.
of it.
You know,
Right.
that's one of his tips. Okay, that's one of his tips. Well, first of all, before we leave that 10 interviews today, you're almost certain to lose a candidate to another recruiter who's or a company that's faster on its toes. Is that true, Jack?
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean,
Oh,
okay.
absolutely.
So that's a no-brainer then. What about this other thing? He's got a video, and here's what my advice is. You should buy a URL, a domain name, especially for this video, that you can propagate it more easily. It's about a half an hour long. He tells you, it's all the interview prep. He tells you how a candidate how to prepare for an interview. And so if you're a recruiter, you'd have this easy to remember interviewprep.com or something, and you could just send it to the candidate instead of having to tell her yourself. That's my tip for you, Jack. Okay. Now, as for the content, he says, be sure to mention the interviewer's name. He says, okay, not too much, not in every sentence you say, but I'm not one for that name stuff. Okay. I'll give you a chance to defend yourself before I encourage the others to shoot you down.
Okay, Animal.
You think I don't know you're talking to me? Hold on. If the prime minister meets me once and remembers my name, or he knows my name even without meeting, I'll say, hey, I'm a somebody. But just because
The whole theme, as you know, the whole theme is this. You know, in my opinion, a lot of times when people hire, they want to hire someone they like, they feel comfortable with. And you know, if you're a job seeker,
and in fact, hold on, you believe that likability is a very important factor.
Absolutely.
And that if you make yourself likable in the interview, you have a better chance of being hired over someone who's got more qualifications. Am I right about that?
Yep.
Okay,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, that was it. Yeah. So that's the whole idea. So when you're interviewing, a lot of it is, does the hiring manager like you? They feel comfortable with you. They feel they could work with you, that you're going to make them look good, that you're not going to steal their thunder, that you're not going to sabotage them. So that in addition to the core ingredients, if you have those other attributes,
but let's break it down. I'm helping you. Okay. Yes. Use me as a guide. I know how to run the show. Okay. He says, say the interviewer's name. I don't like that. Ernie, do you want them to keep saying Ernie? Let me be honest with you. Okay.
That sounds salesy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you should use it once in a while. But
once in a while, I'm not saying.
But the thing is, if you say the wrong name, you're in trouble.
Okay. Well, I'm not talking about your wife. Okay.
You don't say it every 5 minutes. I mean, you say
you
once
don't
in a
have
while.
to say it at all. I know they're talking to me. You know what? I always go on about these doctors. You're sitting across from them in a hospital, and they want you to call them doctor. I know your job, you idiot. Don't lord it over me. Okay. So I know your name, and I don't have to say it to impress you. Does anybody?
It's actually also cultural. Like you would say, like, for example, in Switzerland, because they're like very individualistic, like they really use it like a lot. Like always they would say your first name like 50 times. Whereas in like Ukraine, Russia, and all these post-Soviet countries, you will not believe this. It's really like almost you're anonymous. You would not like almost never call someone by like their first name. I believe my dad like almost calls, like it's really like, you know, this like in the post-Soviet world, it's like everybody was like this mix of, you know, everybody is with everyone and one is like big community. So there was like no name. So they're like use much less the first names. It's like unbelievable, but it's really strong actually. They will just say you. They would not say like, hey, Rich, blah 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 blah. Hey, Rich, you want to buy Rich? No. That's like in this culture still prevalent after like 70 years.
Okay, here's I'm going to give you, and thank you. I'm going to give you another one. He said, don't interrupt the interviewer when he or she is blabbing, okay? They're wasting your time by just going on for 10 minutes. Don't interrupt. Jack, am I representing you correctly?
Let me put a little bit more spin on it, Animal, so that what you want to do is, you know, there are people where you're talking, just any conversation, and when you step on their toes as they're talking, it's annoying to the other person. When you can't, you know, we've all been in conversation where you know that other person is just waiting for you to stop talking so you can talk, but you're not listening to the other person. To me, it's very important when you're interviewing, you want to actively listen to what they're saying. You want to hear what they're saying. You want to kind of reframe sometimes what they're saying to show that you know what's going on. You want to, yes, you'll sprinkle in their name. Yes, you'll kind of nod your head a little bit as they're talking to show you're paying attention. You want to give the cues. You want to maybe mirror them a little bit so that they feel comfortable talking to you. And
okay,
and
mirror them. Okay, let me break down what he says. And yeah, okay, mirror them means he's from New York. He says he talks really fast. This is not him. Okay, this is not his authentic self we're seeing. It's Mr. Cool. Okay, he said if you are from New York and you're interviewing someone from the Midwest, you gotta slow it down. Does anybody agree with that?
You don't do it in a caricaturistic way. You don't, you know, you don't go overboard. You just kind of, you just dial it. Like,
Mirror.
you know,
Yeah, you got to mirror them a little bit.
yeah.
You know?
You do. I don't believe you do that, Rich. Okay.
It
Liar! Liar!
Depends. I can't talk like a turtle, or you talk to some of these guys out in the Midwest or South where they just ramble on and on and on and on. You know, that I can't do. But you do give, you get guys that talk a little slower. You talk a little slower. You get guys
Rich, do you never interrupt? Are you not? Do you never
I
interrupt?
always interrupt. I don't interrupt interviewers, but candidates all the time. Because I tell them, if you talk like this on an interview,
Yes.
the interviewer's probably going to hang up on you.
Okay,
Great, right.
What
You know,
about
when
your
you talk about that, and you talk about like the interviewer versus the person being interviewed, I found that when you're doing the hiring manager and you're going up the ranks, see, it's for a manager position, you know, it goes well. They talk. But as you go further up the ranks and you get to the president usually wants to do all the talking, and they never really ask any questions. They just talk. And you just got to adjust yourself to know that the president likes to tell you what to do. And and if you listen, he's fine. But he'll do all the talking, and I usually will ask the candidate, well, you talk to the president, did he ask him any questions? He goes, no, he just talked a lot about the company.
Yep.
And they see their role as selling the company and what they could do. And the rest could figure out whether they want you or not.
You're
All the
with
time.
Jack.
Ernie,
You're
let
with
me ask you
Jack.
this. Do you
You're
find
with
out,
Jack.
wait, Adam, one sec. Do you find out that the more people talk, right, the interviewer, the more they sell themselves on the candidate, because they start this, thing that, hey, if I'm talking so much, I must really like Rich. That's why I'm talking so much. And they actually end up convincing themselves that he's the right candidate because they spend so much time on it.
Okay.
It really depends on the subject, because if you're from San Francisco and I'm from San Francisco and we like the 49ers and I start talking to you about the 49ers, I got to stop that as a candidate and we got to talk about the job.
Right.
Hold on a second. No, Jack is going to disagree with you, but he said something else. He said, ask the interviewer or the ask them, why did you pick my resume? Why are you interviewing me? He says, because then they have to justify it to themselves. They have to sell you to themselves. Anybody agree with that? That's very subtle. Anybody, or we can just pass on that. But
I think you have a situation whenever you hire somebody, there's a problem. They got to fix that problem. You got to bring the interviewer back to the reason as to why they're talking to you. And that's really what Jack is asking.
Exactly.
Why are you talking to me? What do you like about me?
No.
And
why are you talking to me? That sounds very challenging. Okay. What did you like about my resume? Is a little. That's what he's saying, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah. Why would I don't know. I wouldn't do it. Why would you want to put the hiring manager on the spot? Just you know.
Because here's what I think a lot depends on the sector you're in, right? So like the kind of people I place, their compliance, their legal, their risk, their audit, and it's a different kind of thing. They're not bringing in revenue. So they're cost centers. So the game is very different. And I imagine in, technology, in, salespeople in technology, and what you do, everyone's a little different. So you have to calibrate it differently. I wouldn't speak to a tech person the same way I'm going to speak to, an auditor.
What about what Ernie said? If you're talking about, hold on, but first, before we go on, Ivan, I want you to think about this. I don't really care if you work, you just want to keep your ad up there. That's fine with me, but I don't want you to have to listen and not participate. Okay.
And don't fall asleep either, Ivan.
No, he can sleep. I don't care if he's got his eyes closed on the show. It doesn't matter. I like people to, if they want to say something, they have a chance. So I'll come back to you on this, or raise your hand or whatever. But I want to come to Jack. Jack says, before you go into an interview, you look up all the people who are you're going to speak to, and find out what sports teams they're interested in, and anything else. I don't know he doesn't specify what those other things are, if they like camping or steaks or whatever. And so you'll come in, he says two things. You'll come into the interview with sort of a framework. You'll feel comfortable with that person because you'll feel that person, even if you don't talk about those things. But also, when you get an opportunity, you can talk about the 49ers. I think Jack would say, never interrupt a conversation about some irrelevant thing if it's building your rapport. Jack, over to you.
So absolutely. I stand by that. For instance, before I came on your show for the first time, I checked out your podcast, everything you've done, what you write, what you write about. So this way I have a feel for who you are, what you're about, how you run a show. And then I'm like, okay, I get this guy. I understand who he is. And before I even met you, or at the time it was, via the, radio or phone, I was like, oh, I feel this person. I know what he's about. I get a sense of where he's going to go with everything.
Okay, hold on a second. That's different. This is a media. This is a show. What about an interviewer?
So here's what happened in an interview. So if I go into an interview, right, and before I go to the interview, I find out that Ernie is a San Francisco, a football fan, that he is, went to whatever school where he grew up, whatever it is, but then also all the other people. And it's really important to know what the company is, what the company's mission is, what new things happen there. So then when you go, and obviously the job description, what you have to do. So then when you go into, the interview, you feel really confident that you understand the place, what they do, what their mission statement is, you understand about the people you're going to meet with. So you feel that comfortableness that these are who they are. I understand
what about
better.
The exact question? You know what?
Yeah.
What about, he said, interrupt, bring the conversation back.
There's a difference between interrupt and bringing it back, right? Like I just interrupted you by saying that, but there's also,
we're not in a job interview,
but you can find a way that how you could kind of wait for a pause and then to say what you have to say. So when I say interrupt,
when I've got my mouth open like this, you get in there, okay? But here's another thing. What about you? No, let me just say one more thing. Okay. What about when the interviewer's talking about something that you're really interested in a normal conversation? I'll interrupt because I'll forget what I want to say. I'll interrupt. So that's part of a normal conversation. Ernie, go ahead.
No, but I was going to say the thing is, number one, Jack's absolutely right. You do the research.
I love Ernie. He's my best friend now.
You get the.
How about Ernie? That's it.
You should interview Ernie for your show. He's got some podcasts as well.
You share the LinkedIn profiles. You tell them you should know what the company's making. You do all of that stuff. Secondly, when you go into the interview, you got to realize that there's a hiring manager, but then there's this whole slew of other people that are interviewing you, and you just wonder, why is the corporate controller interviewing me? Why is the sales guy interviewing me? Why is this? And sometimes those folks don't know how to interview you for your position. And sometimes they have no idea why they're talking to you.
Jack talks about that too. Jack, you want to answer that?
So what you got to do with that is you got to make sure that you figure out why they're talking to you, and ask them something like, well, if I got this job, what could I do to help you?
Exactly. Right. You have to tailor it to that person. If you're the controller, you tailor it to that person. If it's the HR, you're going to come across, hey, I'm a good corporate citizen. If you're talking to the hiring manager, how can I make your life better? If you're talking to a peer, hey, I'm a good guy, we can work together. if it's an underling, if you're going to come in as a manager, you want to make sure, hey, I'm going to be a great boss, because you got to get everyone to buy in. So then when you have all these interviews, as Ernie's saying, at all different levels, you have to sell everybody on you, in that whole dynamic.
Okay, I forgot. I want to mention something. Ivan has written a book for how to get a job for IT guys. Am I right about that? You sell it. Coder Fit, is that it?
Yeah, exactly. It's called Coder Fit, and if you Google it, you'll find it on different platforms to buy.
I have to do
Coder
all his
Fit
selling
career
for him,
book.
okay?
And basically, it's all the non-technical stuff that you need for the career. So
Okay,
basically,
so
do you face the same things that we do, or is it different in tech?
I think it's more like even more that you have to like push candidates to be like, let's say, to be more understanding of it, what it means to interview. It's
no,
like even
hold on a second.
like
Here's
10x.
Ivan. This is what I referred to at the beginning of the show. You say that IT candidates, they don't want chit chat about the San Francisco 49ers or whatever soccer team they've got over there. They're not interested in building rapport like that. They just want hard facts. Isn't that what you say? And I can actually read your words back to you if you want.
They're like interested in computer games and stuff. So like, yeah, I mean,
hold on a second.
They do have other interests, I suppose.
I don't like it when people back out when they say something. How to build rapport with techies. A people person can bond quickly with others over trivial things. Notice that word. Techies aren't like that. Okay, if you make a cold call or send a cold recruiting email to a technical person, don't talk about a hobby you saw on his LinkedIn profile. Just get down to the tech talk from the start, and I can supply the URL if I have to. Jack, what do you think about that advice he just put out there?
See, I don't know enough about tech. I'm really curious myself, because to me, without knowing firsthand, it does seem that it's more of, hey, are you a software engineer, and how good are you? And that's all that matters. The interpersonal skills, the social skills.
They're kind of like robots, okay?
A little bit.
So I imagine that's a whole different world, right?
Okay.
I mean, there are, like, let's say, as I said, like in this podcast that you really enjoyed, Animal, thank you for like really your support on this. So what I said there is essentially that there are like extreme personalities where you will really not be able to come through in any way, apart from really showing a competency about the job, about tech, about really the hard stuff related to the position. There are like certain people like this in tech, the percentage of those people is higher than in other industries. This is definitely true. But with some people, definitely you can talk about computer games or like other things, So it's like,
does it really depend on your level? Like if you're an entry level versus a director level and a VP level. I mean, your skills should expand beyond as you go up the ladder.
There are some people that are just extremely technical, so they would go not to the like a management route to go up, but more really the like hardcore technical route. Like big companies, they have actually like a path where you can stay technical but make the same money as a manager. And well, this is unique to tech, I believe, that you have.
And
like
they basically say I don't like people, and they're saying I don't like people. I don't want to talk to people.
Yes, I will only like program like the Linux kernel, like in some big company, right? And then you like, okay, you still make like really a lot of money, like manager level, but you don't need to deal with people.
And so you have to have a manager that knows how to deal with those kind of people, and knows how to use their expertise and recognizes that they're not the life of the party, but they're what I need.
Okay, I got to talk about some other things. Okay, but you can, Jack, you can see there's really nothing to fear on this show. You can come back again without scaring me that I'm going to make you lose your livelihood. Okay, 10 minutes before the show starts. Okay, what about counteroffers? We talked about it last week, but a guy posted on my Facebook group just today that, I can give you the blow by blow. As soon as he got her a raise and a better vacation period, her employer came back with an extra week over what the offer was, and $5,000, I think $25,000 more, but less benefits and less bonuses, and so she wanted to go with the counteroffer, and he tried to talk her down, but it didn't, go anywhere. My take is that once they are interested in the counteroffer, there's really nothing you can do. Well, I just want to know what you think about that.
It's hard. I always prepare people for a counteroffer.
Yeah, that doesn't make a difference, does it? Hold on. The prep, he prepared her. Does the counteroffer prep inoculate them against it? My
Doesn't
answer is
inoculate.
no.
It doesn't inoculate, but what happens, you're laying the groundwork. And so by laying the groundwork, you may get a sense, because some people say to me, hey, they really like me there. And if I leave, they're going to offer me more money. So already they're giving me a signal. Now, what do I got to figure out what's the best course of action to do? So you hear, you pick up on that kind of stuff. Also, sometimes they'll say, you know what, Jack, I just had this where I placed somebody and I asked him about it. He goes, you know what, I gave my word. I'm going to take the job. I'm not going to take a counter. I'm going to go with it, go with the position and so on. And he did. So I like to feel them out, how they're going to do it, because after the fact, once a counter offer is made, sometimes it's tough. Once the barn door is open.
Okay, what you just described as a situation that depended on the character or the preferences of the candidate. It wasn't like you had any control. Here's what Ernie's major technique is, if I remember correctly. It's start at the beginning and tell the candidate. I don't agree with him, but it is interesting. He says, tell the candidate, go and ask for a raise. If you're concerned about money, go and ask for a raise before I do anything with you, okay? Because I want you to know if they're going to really be interested in giving you money. Ernie, am I misrepresenting you, or am I?
No, you're right. I mean, if you ask him what's your motivation for making this change, and if it's just money, then you should go tell him, go ask for a raise now.
My feedback was not everybody has the guts to ask for a raise, and they might think that asking for a raise is going to make the boss hate them, and they might have to stay there. What's your take on Ernie's advice, Jack?
It's interesting. So I would add a twist to that too. So I like the theme of what you're saying, Ernie, that let's say I would go into Iwan. Is it Iwan or Ivan? What's
Ivan, come on.
Okay, because what's IWAN?
Yeah, I know. Okay, he's foreign.
Okay. It's Iwan.
I can get in trouble for that. Okay.
So Iwan. So yeah. So what happens is this. If you go in, I like what you're saying, Ernie. If you go in and you ask your boss about maybe getting a raise or promotion and have that kind of talk, and then if you hear that you're not going to get a raise, you're not going to get a promotion, that frees you up to say, you know what, I'm going to start looking. I'm going to go and look for another job, and you kind of know you're not going to get a counter.
We understood that. Yeah. What do you think about that technique? Would you recommend it to people as well?
It's a bold move. And it depends how you are.
You know what? He's a hard guy to pin down. Michael G. Cox, welcome to the show.
Adam, no. Because you know what? You're looking at the world as if it's black and white. It doesn't work that way.
It is black and white.
It's not.
You're looking at it like a therapist or a politician. It doesn't say anything clear.
Shades of gray. No,
you pay them your $150 an hour, and you come and say, well,
are you being
what
silly?
did I get out of that?
Come on, stop being silly. There's shades of gray. It's
Why don't you tell Michael G. Cox that what he said is interesting even before he says anything?
Each situation merits different things. You can't have a one-size-fits-all for everything. It doesn't work that way.
They say, okay, thesalesrecruiter.com. Let me go through everybody again. Thesalesrecruiter.com just came in. Food industry recruiter, that's Dr. Ernie. Klang, KLANG.SO. And Michael G. Cox, Rich Rosen, cornerstonesearch.com, gave this guy's ATS, Klang.SO. He gave it an endorsement today. He said it's very good. So I just want to repeat that for everybody.
Just so you know, I use the other thing, I use the social media job sharing app.
We are renaming it right now. We're actually renaming it to go.klang.so, so it will be much easier to use. Right now, it's just
it was good, dude. You can check it out. I posted a gig. Figured I'd
what a show for you.
Run through it. It was and actually, I'm just responding to an email that I got from a guy that says, "Hey, man, what software are you using to create the job notification on LinkedIn?" So pretty cool.
There you go. Well, what an endorsement. Jack,
what are you calling it?
I appreciate the newsletter, by the way, Jack.
Go Klang.
Go Klang.
Go Klang.
Yeah. Okay. Michael G. Cox, do you have a question for the famous Jack Kelly, third-time guest on the show?
Sure. How did you get to the point? I mean, you're writing all this stuff on a daily basis, and what else do you do besides that, man? I get your alerts on a daily basis, and I think this guy just shits money or something because he's doing that. It's crazy.
Get back in.
Then he walks away.
I had to close the door.
Gonna go get a drink.
I got here's my new cup, by the way.
So here's the deal. First of all, you have to have kids who are older, who are self-sufficient. And then you have to have a spouse who has her own thing going on too. And then you have to have no
Crap.
life. And then you have
Never
no
mind.
life. So if you have those attributes, no life, kids who are self-sufficient, you
Yeah.
know, and your spouse who's doing her
Yeah,
own
but you've
thing,
got a staff as well.
yeah,
You're a
and
boss.
then you have to have
Am
a team, right? Then you have a good team. So then,
Okay.
and if you like what you do, I just work a lot.
There's
Seriously,
another
during-
key to that though, is not
Yeah.
write crap.
Yeah.
And I'd
Can I
probably
tell you
struggle
something?
with that one too.
Michael, I've been working during the pandemic in particular. I think I've been working every day all the time, and not because I'm a hustle porn guy. It's lack of alternatives. You know what I mean? So I just working.
Did you say
Yeah.
hustle porn?
Yes.
It's okay to use the word porn, but
Yeah.
I had to worry about what I said. Okay.
We all worry about what you say, man.
Thank you. All right. So
yeah.
just because I was speaking to my animal privately before that, say, hey, dude, just do me a favor. Don't say anything that's going to just really jeopardize everything I've been doing. Like one of those Jenga things. We'll pull it out and it all comes tumbling down because like one thing gets
Okay.
said. I'm like, oh, no.
Here's the thing. Okay, here's something he says. Stop criticizing me, okay, all the time. Look, he says he had a talk with Ed Han, H-A-N, who I've known on social media for ages, but I'd never seen him before. And he's very different than I would have imagined. So if, I posted it in the group yesterday. Anybody wants to see it. But you said, Jack, if I'm not mistaken, that you see a lot of ageism, but it's not caused by age. It's that these companies can now hire people who are remote in North Dakota and can pay them less money because they live in inexpensive real estate areas, and they're usually younger. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. Absolutely.
That's
So
totally wrong.
I think a lot of people, it's not just because you're 65 or whatever, like you're
Yeah,
old,
it is.
you know, you're here. Well, let me finish, Michael. Because
Yeah.
in part, yes. But another part is this, at least in my space, what I see, let's say placing people on Wall Street, it's so much easier for them to say, instead of someone in New York who's 45 years and older and paying them 150 to 250 or whatever, let's put them in Jacksonville, Florida. Let's put them in another country. Let's put somewhere else. And usually when they do that, it's way younger people, way less expensive. And so you could call that ageism, I guess. Yeah. But it's a combination of those things wrapped up together.
It's locationism. I've never heard that term before. I just created it.
You just created it, trademark it.
That's very good.
Michael G. Cox, put up your dukes. I want to see those boxing gloves. You're punching at them right out of the as soon as the bell rings.
So
go ahead.
Here's the what I have been seeing since the start of the Rona. And the reason I started seeing it is because I would make so many calls into VPs of sales that would say, dude, we're not hiring. And not only are we not hiring, I need to find a job. Help me.
Yeah.
And those that couldn't find that next gig as quickly were over like that 55 years of age mark. And I got two guys that I'm still working with, and they've got great experience at director level and another at VP level, and great experience, and just can't get past the face-to-face interview or the Zoom interview, because at that moment it just becomes obvious. It's hard to hide gray hair and a pot belly, and so they're struggling. I got one too. They're struggling to find that gig.
No. He told me I lost weight. Go ahead.
I found
the show last time he was on, okay, it was on radio. I mean, just media, but he knew somehow. But when he saw me, that I'd lost weight. But go ahead.
Because that goes back to what I was saying before. You do your homework on people.
Yeah. Okay. But hold on a second. Okay. So why then aren't all of the jobs going to China and India and where else? Is it
in my space? Can I tell you a lot? Animal in my area, a lot has moved to other countries.
Really?
Yeah.
Like in the last 1 year?
Yeah, this has been for a while, for the last, let's say, 5 years. Give you an example. Let me just random.
But you do audit and law. It's like impossible to outsource this.
It's all, I got to tell you, it used to be, let's say you go to a big investment bank in New York and you go to their job board. You'd see New York, New York, New York, New York, New York, New York. Now, if you go and try it yourself, you'll see, go pick Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Citigroup. You'll see all different countries. And then instead of where New York, Wall Street, was the place to be, you're going to see Salt Lake City, you're going to see Dallas, you're going to see Tampa, in Florida, all
Yeah,
over
but
the
what
place.
about
wherever it's-
Pune or Shanghai?
yeah.
Okay.
Not Shanghai, but definitely you see India. You see things like Latvia. You see all these countries. You're like, why these countries? It's wild, and it's really scary. It's really scary. Put aside everything else we're talking about now. To me,
Anybody
that's
else
really
notice
frightening for
that?
us.
Anybody else notice that, Ivan?
I hear it myself.
No.
Not directly,
No,
but I hear
no,
it. I
and
don't
not
know.
only that, you're dealing with technical people who don't have to have fantastic communication skills. They don't even like to talk. Okay.
No, it's
Anybody
like
else? What?
No, I'm not seeing that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike, what do you-
I do sales recruiting. So
And what these sales primarily in the U.S. is that, or sales everywhere?
U.S. So no, I'm not seeing that. The
Okay.
farthest I've been is like Guam.
Can I bring up something else?
Yeah,
At
go ahead.
at the beginning, Jack talked about what somebody should expect from going into the corporate world. And I thought that was brilliant because a lot of people don't know the rules.
They've been there already, aren't they?
No. But I'm saying a lot of times, like I'm talking to this young lady that's just getting out of college and getting her first food manufacturing job. And all the things he's saying as to how you grow, they need the mentoring like that is what people need, because a lot of times it's even as simple as when you go into a meeting and you're sitting at the table where you should sit. If you're not part of the group that normally goes in there, you sit in the back. And then you're only there to give advice. You're not there or to when you're asked a question, you answer it, but you're not there to speak up. You're not an equal. And those are the little games that you learn. But somebody has to teach you those things. And a lot of times people do not have parents that can teach them that. I taught my kids that, but I had to learn it because other people who were more experienced and were in that world taught me the rules.
Yeah.
But that's what Jack is doing. And I thought, you know what? He's exactly right. And then as the further up you go, you're going to have to move. So you got to decide at a young age.
That's kind of what we were talking about, Ernie.
Okay.
It's kind of,
Ernie.
That's where I thought Jack did a great job in terms of what he was advising people to
what
do.
are you kissing his, you know what?
That's
for at
driving
the end of
animal
the
crazy.
show?
He's doing that to taunt you.
Because it's touching on something that a lot of people don't talk about.
I just Venmoed him money. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Here's the thing, dude. Most people don't know about that even being an issue, and far too many individuals like they dismiss it and think, oh, that's politics. But it's not politics, it's relationships. And those social rules that happen at the top of most organizations, people discount them if they're looking from the bottom up as politics. People at the top look at it as relationships to get stuff done.
Yeah, they mention your name a lot. Oh, they know how to mention your name. Hey, can everybody just move sort of towards the camera for a second so I can use these as and smile, so I can use these in the future as, as shots and say, look, people are happy to be on this show. Okay, because people are scared. They don't see us all smiling. Okay, anybody got final words? Jack, over to you. Final words.
No, this is good. Yeah.
Don't you want to plug something? Don't you want to plug something? Yeah,
no, I'm good.
Let's plug it. Spell WeCruiter.
Okay, WeCruiter, WECRUITR.com. And definitely take a look at my Forbes articles. Just you can Google Jack Kelly Forbes and you find them all there. And then
and your company, your recruiting
and then the Compliance Search Group.
Okay.
Compliance Search Group, compliancesearch.com.
Okay. The winner of the show, I gotta say, Clang.so. Okay, I couldn't have wished if I was him for better endorsements than that. The Sales Recruiter. Anything you want to say? You told us this week that you lived in Mexico for 3 years and worked as a recruiter.
Yeah,
I was shocked.
Oh, I was in staffing, and I was actually having to cross over the border on a daily basis. It was horrible.
Wow.
Yeah, it was terrible.
We'll get to that another time. Ernie's got some lurid stories as well, but you're the salesrecruiter.com and he's the food industry recruiter. And I want everybody to wave now. Okay. Thanks everybody.
Thanks guys.
Bye.